Oh, hello, friends. Today we are talking about the Lenovo Legion Go, little gaming device that runs SteamOS, same software that the Steam Deck runs. In my eyes, this is the Steam Deck 2.0. I just want to jump on here and tell you a little bit about my experience with it. Spoiler, I've really liked it a lot. I have plans to put it up against a few devices, but as of now, this thing is going to be pretty hard to beat. So let's jump into it. I want to tell you a little bit about this device, show you around a little bit. This is the Legion Go S from Lenovo. This is the SteamOS version with the Z1E chip. It has 32 gigabytes of RAM. It has a 1 terabyte SSD, 8-inch display, VRR. It's not OLED, but it is a nice, big, colorful display. This is one of those devices that I don't think people covered enough. I think a lot of people were just like, oh, whatever. It's not the Legion Go 2. It's not the Big Daddy. Who cares? It's probably just the cheaper version. And so I was looking around for a bit of an upgrade for my Steam Deck. So I was using the Steam Deck OLED for over a year and I loved it. I just think certain games wouldn't run great. One example is Dead Space, which we'll jump into in a little bit. I tried to play that game on there and it was so stuttery, maybe 30 frames per second if I were lucky. I don't even think it hit that. I feel like it was at 24 or something, and it just wasn't a great experience. And so I didn't want to be limited in that aspect. And so I sold it. And, I think for some people it's going to be a great option. I hope whoever I sold it to has a really good time with it. But I was looking for a replacement. And so on my lists were the Legion Go 2, which was announced recently. It's like $1,300, maybe even more. The upcoming Xbox, the ROG Xbox Ally X, which just got announced. The price is $1,000, $999. And I have that pre-ordered. I'm going to give it a shot, and I hope it blows me away. And I hate this thing after that. I hope it makes this thing look like garbage. But I don't know if that's going to happen because this device right here is kind of amazing. And so I'm going to break it down a little bit into pros and cons afterwards and a couple of nice things. But I did want to paint that picture is that you have SteamOS that is made to be like a console. So if you see right here, you can go through, you have your titles, you click on it, it opens. This is how it starts. When you boot this device up, you get this display. There is no Windows, there is no desktop with the finicky little pointer. This is easy. You install the game usually, tweak settings a little bit, and it works. You play your game a few minutes, you get tired of it, you hit the little power button up here, boom, and it's going to go to sleep. And then you come back an hour later, you come back a day later, you hit that button again, and you're going to be right back in the game. And that's what's beautiful about SteamOS. On the other side is the Windows handhelds. Now you have a lot of really powerful devices. They're awesome. And you have the power of Windows. So you can play any game, including ones that have the anti-cheat software built in. And Steam can't run those for now. But that's a very specific type of game that not everyone plays. I don't. So I don't really need that. But Windows, the problem is that sometimes you're going to jump in, you're going to want to play, and then you realize your battery drained for no reason. Or you have to update drivers or some other nonsense. And so looking around, I thought, man, I got to give this thing a try and see what it's like, especially because it has SteamOS, and I really enjoyed it. So let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, so jumping in right here. Click the little power button. Let's give it a few seconds. It's going to boot back up. So this, to me, honestly, it feels like a Steam Deck 2.0. It has almost twice the power, it feels like to me. It has twice the amount of RAM. It's got a bigger display. It has twice the SSD I had in the Steam Deck. I think was just 512 gigabytes or whatever. This one has a terabyte, and that is huge. I put a terabyte SD card in here too, so now I have 2 terabytes on this little handheld. I have so many games installed. No matter what I'm in the mood to play, I should have something. So that's really nice. A couple of nice things. I just want to go over SteamOS first before we even jump into games. let's jump into SteamOS. So you can click right here and you see SteamOS. You can go to your library. You can go into the Steam store. I'm going to make a separate video about how Steam has changed my life. I think just having access to so many cheap games that go on sale, just building my collection, it's not like paying 60, 70 bucks for a game like you do on console. So there's a lot of things you could do here. There's your settings. I don't want to jump into all that. There are probably a million videos, but this is what it looks like. It's friendly. It looks nice, and it probably looks different to what you would have. And the reason why is because I am a tinkerer, as you might be. There's this thing called Decky, and it's super easy to install. And this is the nice thing about something like the Steam Deck. It kind of reminds me of when iPhones first started out. There was the jailbreak community that did so many cool things. This Decky community, the Steam Deck community, the SteamOS community is amazing, and they do really cool stuff. And so I have a bunch of little plugins here that you can put in there, and they do all kinds of things. But one of the ones I installed can help you change your whole theme. So I think all of these icons went down a little bit lower. So you get a little bit of a bigger hero display here, kind of simplified the way things look. And then I think I put like a Pixel OS overlay, so it kind of looks like the Google Pixel phones, which I like that aesthetic. So that's why mine might look a little different, but it's going to function the same. And you can easily alter yours to be like this if you like. But there's so many things. So a lot of your quick access stuff is here, your brightness, audio, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, all that kind of stuff. And then this performance center is huge when you get to games, and I'll show you why right now. Let's turn it off. A couple of really nice things I like. People said that this thing didn't have a way to customize these LEDs through SteamOS. Well, recently there was an update, so now you can customize those. I do have a Decky loader plugin that works a little bit better than the stock one. It's called HueSync. Gives you a little bit more options, but the one built into Steam is actually really good, so I don't really think you need that. One of my favorite things about SteamOS is if you want to turn up or down the brightness. Let's say you're in the middle of a game, you don't want to mess with menus. You can hit this button right up here and go up or down. So I'm going down. You see the brightness going down. I can go up, and the brightness goes up. And so that is wonderful. That's one of the really nice things that this device has going for it, that SteamOS has going for it. It has this little trackpad here. The trackpad kind of sucks. I think it's there just like a nice to have in case you need it. I don't think I've ever used it, but I'm glad it's there. If there's ever the case where this the mouse emulation on the joystick doesn't work in desktop mode, you can make this work eventually, swipe a million times, but it's there and it's clicky. So that's nice. Just a little overview over the hardware as well. All the controls are nice. The buttons are nice. The D-pad is actually really good. I love it. These sticks to me were a little bit loose, a little loosey-goosey coming from the Steam Deck, which I really like the way those felt. I like the Xbox controls, the way those feels. And they have really bad caps on them. They're like really thin, skinny ones, where you put your thumbs on. And it felt kind of sucky, it felt kind of low quality. So I went on Amazon, and these are the official Lenovo ones for the Legion Go S, and they fit perfectly. So you can customize, you put these little caps on top. And so I put the, this little dome one on here, and this is working out way better. It makes the device feel even better than it already did. So that's really nice. The speakers on this thing, man, they kind of suck. They're not the worst in the world, but you don't really feel like you're getting the full impact of whatever you're listening to. And that's really, kind of one of the biggest cons of this device. I think when I'm playing it, in a pinch, I turn it up, I just pick it up. I want to play. I don't want to pop in headphones or whatever. I'm like, okay, whatever. These speakers will be good enough. And I always think about them. And when you think about something, that means it's standing out. In this case, you don't want it to stand out. I'm thinking about them because I'm like, what's going on? I can't hear. The speakers aren't great. So that leaves something to be desired. But I feel like every device out there is going to have pros and cons. And so I really like everything else. The buttons are great. The layout is great. It's actually pretty comfortable. I had to get used to the grip because this is down low. On the Steam Deck, it's up here, and that really felt kind of perfect. But the Steam Deck is a little longer. It's a little skinnier because the screen is smaller. I think it's 7.5 inches, something like that. This one is 8-inch display. So I had to get used to it, but now you just bring this hand down a little bit, and you're good to go, and you can game. On the backside here, you do have these little buttons. I rarely use them. There are some games that I like to map them to run or quick turn or something like that. And in that case, it works very well. So I like that it has 2 USB ports. I don't know why I like it. I've never used them both at the same time, but I like plugging in the power and knowing that I still have another one just in case, or if one gets damaged, I still have another one. So I think that's really cool. I like that a lot. This button up here, it has a light around it. It looks cool. One thing I don't like is when you put it to sleep. I don't know if it's going to do it right now, but you put the device to sleep and it just starts to just kind of flash, and it just does that. It just flashes forever. So if you're in a dark room or something, that thing is just flashing away and eating a little bit of battery. I kind of hate that. I wish you could just make that stop. Maybe flash for like a minute and then stop forever, please. But not how it works. So anyways, we could jump into a game here. And by the way, I love this color. People are like, oh, I don't like the purple. Purple looks a little girly. I don't know. To me, it doesn't. To me, it almost looks like in a darker room, it looks like black. But I think in a well-lit environment, man, it just looks cool. And every other device out there is like black or white, which is pretty boring. This thing is sweet. I really like it. And so talking about the whole thing, the display is a really good size. And so that, that's a big deal. The display is, what you use to actually consume the media. So it's a really good size. Let's start up this game. So good size. Decent to bad speakers, they're okay. You can get by. The controls are good. So let's go ahead and jump in this game. This is the Dead Space remake, and I had a hard time running this on the Steam Deck. 30 frames per second, 24 frames per second. It was not wonderful, but after tweaking a little bit, man, trust me, it's hard to tell with like the glare, and that's one thing. This display does have a good bit of glare. This thing runs pretty smooth, man. In this game, it has a little bit of like traversal stutters or whatever. So you're always going to have that. But it runs at a pretty good frame rate. For the most part, it's, above 45, usually locks in around the 50s, once you get in a decent environment. And this thing has a lot of effects going on like that right there. And even then, I promise you, you can play this game for hours and you're not going to be like, oh man, this thing sucks. And I could almost guarantee you that if you were to play this on the same device but through Windows, you'd be dropping some frames. I mean, you'd probably go down at least a good 5 or 10 frames per second on average. And that's just because the SteamOS is so good at just using the hardware it has. So this is nice. And so whatever, 45, 55, it's good. If you really want to get crazy, there's a way to install this. I'm going to show you once because people consider it cheating or whatever, but this is, I think it's called Lossless Scaler, and it's a program that essentially uses like frame gen. And so you can see it already went up to close to 100, and it makes the game feel like butter. So if you can get the game to run like 50, 60 frames per second, and then you turn that on, man, it just feels so much smoother. So this game looks great on the 8-inch display. You're going to be blown away. It's a beautiful thing. So enough of that game. We can maybe start another game, but easy as that, right? Look, that game was running the whole time. I put this thing to sleep. I woke it back up, and no big deal at all. So I think that's great. I want to try to do games that people don't usually do. But to be fair, I haven't set up that many games on it. We could try Wukong. That's going to be a stress. That's going to be a stress test because this game, it's a beautiful looking game and it doesn't run on just any old piece of hardware. This game is a little bit more of a difficult one to run. And so while we load that up, I'm going to start wrapping things up here a little bit and just say that this device can be had for a pretty good price. I think I bought it open box on Best Buy and I got it for around $750, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I think right now, like if you're watching this video today, tomorrow, check Best Buy because they have a pretty good sale. The sale right now, let me take a quick look. It's $779 brand new. So the usual price is $899 because everything kind of went up in price recently. So $779 brand new for this, I think is It's a really good price for the specs that this thing has, for how good SteamOS is, for compared to the competition. Think about the Legion Go 2. That thing is it's pretty much $1,400. Let's just say it. I mean, it's $1,350 time you pay tax or whatever. You're talking $1,400 here in the US. And then the Legion, or I'm sorry, the ROG Xbox Ally X, which I have pre-ordered, it's coming. That thing is $999. So if you can get this guy right here brand new for $750, I don't think you'll be upset, especially considering the way that that it runs on SteamOS and just how nice it is. And here's what I would say. If you already have a main gaming setup and you just want a little something on the go, you're going to have a hard time doing better than this for the price. All of those other devices, even the Legion Go 2, let's say you got cheddar cheese, you got so much money, that device has the Windows setup. So every time you start it, you might have to update your drivers. It might be out of battery. It's not going to run to the full capacity because it has so much baggage. And even the Xbox Ally X, that thing is going to be better because they're doing the Xbox full screen experience. So I'm excited to try that out. But it's still not going to be perfect. That thing is still going to not be perfect. And it's going to make it a little hard, to compete with this thing for the price. Now, Wukong is something I had a really hard time playing on the Steam Deck. I mean, pretty much impossible. And even on here, I'm not going to lie. That's why I said this was going to be a tough test. It's not going to look as great as it does on a super high-end system, but this game is notoriously difficult to run, even on like PlayStation 5 and everything. It doesn't run perfectly. So I played this game on my main PC, which is kind of a monster. It's not the best thing out there, but it's good. It's really, really good. So I played this thing at like a nice solid 60 frames per second on pretty high settings, ray tracing turned off, but I'm not going to lie to you. It's getting close to that 30 frames per second here, and I'm going to cheat again. If I go up in here and I turn on this this 2 timer, it feels a lot better. And there is a little bit of input lag, but I mean, it's playable. You have to adapt to it a little bit. And so anyways, this is kind of pushing it on the other end. Most other games, like if I go here, let's go home. Other games I've played on here, I mean, pretty much any Resident Evil game you get is going to run beautifully. Resident Evil 4 is probably the most demanding one, and it still ran pretty well. GTA 5, all these other games. God of War looked pretty good on here. Jedi Fallen Order is a tough one to run, but even that played decently on here. It just gives you a little bit more than what the Steam Deck is capable of, and I think it's going to be hard to beat the performance of this thing, and I'm excited to get the Xbox ROG Ally X and put it up against this. And so anyways, I appreciate you taking the time to sit with me here. I wish I could have told you even more about it, but I think I covered everything, and we're almost 20 minutes in. So thanks for sticking around. I'll see you guys on the next one.